All seeing eye. Yeah. It's really funny what the realness bring, cause everybody wanna kill the king. A couple snakes in the grass, I see them and they be slithering. To kill a mockingbird, will it sing? Yeah. And motherfucker, you could kiss the ring. And I get bread when I spill the beans. 2 birds, 1 stone, I know it can be bewildering. To kill a mockingbird, will it sing?
When you first think of Sam Raimi, what comes to mind? Damn, we're getting old. What about the term goth? No, not that. No, not that. Yes, wait, no. Yes, back to that. Tonight we're talking about the gothic elements from literature that are evident in the Sam Raimi movie Army of Darkness, and how they interact with modernity in order to create both dark and slapstick humor. For a more comprehensive understanding of the topic, you're in the wrong place. But for right now, I'm going to do my best at briefly describing what I mean by gothic elements from a literary perspective. I will design this section of the video to be skippable for those who are well versed already. For those of which who are not, let's begin. The term Gothic first appeared in the Middle Ages when referring to an originally French style of architecture. During the rise of dark romanticism as a literary genre in the 1700s was when Gothic literature would come about. I don't need to get into vast details, but the genre started arguably with Horace Walpole's The Castle of Otranto. The style spiraled to popularity in the 18th and 19th centuries with novels and stories famous to this day. Just for reference, some of those are Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, The Monk by Matthew Lewis, and The Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe. These stories had each contained very similar elements that we would discuss how they relate to Army of Darkness later in the video. There are an almost overwhelming amount of themes, elements, and examples I could go over in this section, so I will go over what I consider to be quintessential to your introductory understanding. For this next information, I referenced a great article by Robert Harris on Gothic elements, so don't just take my word for it. The first element to know is the presence of some inexplicable force or supernatural entity that can cause unbelievable events to occur. Yeah, I'm just gonna turn this into a top 3 by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Second, there's typically an environment or atmosphere created that will convey the viewer, and often the protagonist as well, to feel a sense of suspense and overall mystery. Lastly, well in terms of my top 3, is an antique and often ancient setting, which circles right back to our second element. This is usually easily done by having an old mansion, cabin, or medieval castle present regardless of the time period the narrative takes place. Many times these locations have ancient spirits and prophecies even attributed with them. In Army of Darkness, the Raimi brothers kinda shoved this idea in your face. Okay, now let's get into the good stuff and why you probably clicked on this video. Okay, so the first comedic relationship between Gothic storytelling and modernity is the most obvious one: technological advancement. The first real taste of this we get as an audience member is during the pit scene in the beginning.
Where am I?
The pit of despair. Don't even think.
People love a good pit. Ash, after watching a blood geyser come out Nightmare on Elm Street style out of the pit, is probably all you need to know that he was fucked. That was until the medieval fantasy trope stock character Wise Old Man threw him a nice taste of 20th century two-stroke patrol machinery. What's important about this moment for our analysis is that the pit had a sense of horror and suspense around it. We really did not know what to expect at this point in the film. All we know is that evil lurks within the pit, and once we meet this bog-brooding wretch of an entity, we realize Ash is being overwhelmed. Through his chainsaw, he's able to diffuse the aura of suspense as far as Gothic horror is concerned, but of course still had to fight his way out. This moment ties into our list of elements by being set around a castle, referencing him being the chosen one for their ancient prophecy, the Deadites, and of course our manly protagonist experiencing overwrought emotion. Once out of the pit, he has a nice monologue in one of the most comedically quick duels in movie history, through the power of modernity.
Dead. This is my boomstick! It's a 12-gauge double-barreled Remington. S-Mart's top of the line.
With the power of his boomstick, Ash's lovely Remington is definitely a main contributor for comedy when interacting with Gothic elements for the rest of the movie. This is seen during the scenes when he deals with the demonically possessed old women, doing the good old classic Gothic storytelling trope of foretelling the main character's doom and telling of marvelous soul feasting. Once again, even though the old omen foreteller clearly has supernatural ability by levitating, technological advancement trumps her by surprise. Ash makes quick work of her one slug at a time and saves the day. Another great example of modern tech comedically interfering is during the fight with the classic Gothic doppelganger monster, Evil Ash, and how once Ash is officially done, he just shoves the shotgun in his face and wastes him quite comedically. Like the ragdoll physics of Fallout New Vegas level wasted. Yes, Ash does use another lever action long gun at the end of the movie to once again fight supernatural evil. It's not only funny because it's modern tech versus ancient evil, but the setting is modern and the so-called S-Mart, and Ash is still in his uniform. There isn't much to analyze there outside of the fact that the aura of suspense that is created by the store lights getting dark is comedically immediately turned into an action movie like the majority of the movie. I think it was a good way to end this type of fun movie. Okay, digressing past that ending side tangent, there is only one last solid example of modern day tech absolutely colliding with the Gothic for one of the funniest moments in the movie. When doom and gloom is on the rise due to supernatural undead skeletons taking the castle, nonetheless via audible face slashing, well, I'm sure you see where this is going. Ash comes to save the day in an almost strictly action movie moment where he comes bursting through the barn doors with a freshly concocted turbine of death / heavily armored train whistling upgraded fuel guzzler. I made this the last point for this section because even Ash is self-aware of the obvious advantage and almost comedic relief modernity provides for the glum situation by exclaiming,
Say hello to the 21st century. Yeah!
With modernity comes individualism and secularism. Ash definitely represents individualism very well throughout the whole film, hilariously with borderline arrogance. The best examples of this that we, the audience, witness is through dialogue and some swift actions with the aptly named boomstick. There are more examples of which in the first half of the film. He immediately denies knowing these assholes, referring to Duke Henry and his men. Following this, he goes through the pit sequence, then has a nice monologue about how he's going to run the show, or at least call the shots, while he also takes out a Gothic horror from the pit. From this point, all he cares about is getting home, and doesn't really have a concern for the ancient plight of the townsfolk. This is his main focus as he even gets curt while receiving vital info from the wise man.
Clatu, Verata, Nicto, okay.
Well, repeat them.
Clatu, Verata, Nicto.
Again!
I got it! I know your damn words, all right? Now you get this straight, the both of you. If I get that book, you send me back. After that, I'm history.
While individualism isn't all-encompassed and rooted in self-serving behavior, more rather is also about self-reliance and understanding the differences amongst individuals. Okay, that being said, Ash really has a personalized individualistic goal within the whole film, getting home. Another aspect of individualism displayed is self-reliance. Ash most certainly is a guy that can take care of himself. We see this not only in the beginning, where he 127 hours himself and upgrades his arm, but also when he is fighting off quote-unquote evil dead, or even using modern intelligence and knowledge to solve his problems. One of the first cases of self-reliance with the help of the blacksmith is when Ash somehow makes some type of power gauntlet with medieval age mechanics, but you know, when it especially comes to Gothic movies, they want you to suspend disbelief. Second, we do see prior to fighting his doppelgangers and eventual evil Ash that he is able to start a fire and maintain the little windmill cabin. Even though he did not win the little battle to bar evil Ash from spawning, he still was able to win the full fight in the end, while the full moon glistened. The last point I'll cover where we see Ash display self-reliance is when he prepares both personally and with the townsfolk for the battle with the Deadites. This is successfully done through showing us his trunk is full of useful knowledge and also product placement. Ash somehow is a very intelligent man. Even with the help of wise men of the time, they managed to make black powder explosives and even repair and upgrade his motorized vehicle. For the last part of this video, there's one obvious modern element that defeats the Gothic comedically. The dialogue throughout this movie is more or less fantasized medieval diction outside of Ash, which is what makes Ash so funny. Instead of overanalyzing each word Ash says, how about we just watch a little montage of all those moments that help relieve the Gothic horror tension and oftentimes in the film make it become a slapstick action comedy.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but two things right now. Jack and shit. And Jack left town. You know your shoelace is untied. Just send me back to my own time. Pronto, today. Groovy.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. Okay, little fella. How about some hot chocolate, huh?
Just me, baby. Lady, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to ask you to leave the store.
In conclusion, we see that modernity colliding with classical Gothic elements found in literature create not only dark and slapstick humor, but an interesting story. This was done throughout the film by showing technological advancements effects in a medieval setting, through individualism mixed with secularism, and with, for a lack of a better term, witty modern dialogue. I hope you enjoyed the video, ladies and gentlemen. There's much more to come. I've been excited to come back. This is Sid with Let's Make It Official, signing off.